Our world, with its familiar continents, its established histories, and its predictable daily rhythms, feels solid, immutable. We navigate our lives with the quiet confidence that the reality we perceive is the only one that exists. But what if this certainty is merely an illusion? What if, shimmering just beyond the edge of our perception, there lies a tapestry of other worlds, other timelines? What if the barriers between these realms are not as impenetrable as we believe? Tonight, we journey to the very fringes of understanding, to explore encounters that challenge the foundations of our reality. We will investigate 5 extraordinary cases of mysterious strangers, individuals who appeared as if from nowhere, their origins shrouded in impenetrable mystery. Their stories are not mere flights of fancy. They are documented events, official reports, personal testimonies. Could these be elaborate hoaxes, tricks of the mind, or something far more profound? We will examine the evidence, delve into the inexplicable details, and ask a question that has haunted humanity for centuries. Are we alone in our universe, or are we simply one of many? Join me as we pull back the curtain on reality and consider the astonishing possibility of visitors from a parallel universe. The year is 1954. Haneda Airport in Tokyo is a bustling hub of international travel, a place where countless stories converge and diverge. But on one particular day, a story began that would defy all explanation. A well-dressed Caucasian man presented himself at customs, his demeanor calm and his paperwork seemingly in order. He was a seasoned traveler, fluent in several languages including Japanese, here on a routine business trip. Everything appeared perfectly normal until the immigration officer glanced at his passport. The document was authentic, stamped and validated, bearing the marks of his previous travels through Europe and Japan. Yet, the country of issue was one that no one had ever heard of: Tord. When questioned, the man pointed confidently to a location on the world map, nestled between France and Spain. But where he indicated, there was only the tiny principality of Andorra. He became agitated, insistent. For him, Andorra did not exist. In its place was the proud nation of Taured, a country with 1,000 years of history. The company he claimed to be visiting had never heard of him. The hotel where he had a reservation had no record. The bank on his checkbook was a complete mystery. Every piece of his identity dissolved under scrutiny. The officials detained him for further questioning, placing him in a guarded hotel room on a high floor with no means of escape. They needed time to unravel the puzzle. Who was this man? A spy, a madman, or something else entirely? But at dawn, when they opened the door, the room was empty. The man from Tard had vanished without a trace. The guards swore no one entered or left. The door was locked from the outside. No struggle, no escape route. His personal documents had also disappeared. Was he a time traveler, or a visitor from a parallel world where Taured exists? For a few hours in a Tokyo airport, 2 realities may have overlapped. We now travel much further back in time, to 12th century England, to the small, unassuming village of Woolpit in Suffolk. Life here was governed by the seasons and the harvest. But one day, villagers reaping their fields stumbled upon something that would shatter their perception of the world. 2 children near a wolf pit, a boy and a girl. They were not like any children the villagers had seen. Their skin was tinged a distinct and vibrant green, and their clothing was made from a material no one could identify. When they spoke, it was in a torrent of sounds, a language unlike any known tongue. They were terrified, lost, and utterly alone in a world that was not their own. The villagers brought them to Sir Richard de Calne. For days they refused all food, until they were presented with raw broad beans which they devoured eagerly. For months, this was all they would eat. The boy was frail and melancholic and died not long after. The girl proved resilient. She learned to eat other foods, and her green hue slowly faded to a normal complexion. She was baptized and, in time, learned to speak English. Questioned about her origins, her story was even more incredible than her appearance. She claimed she and her brother came from St. Martin's Land, a subterranean world where the sun never shone and everything was bathed in perpetual twilight, its inhabitants green, just as they had been. Tending flocks, they followed animals into a cavern, drawn by beautiful ringing bells, and emerged into the blinding sunlight of Woolpit's harvest field. Recorded by William of Newburgh and Ralph of Coggeshall, the tale endures 8 centuries. Folklore, or a dimensional slip through a cavernous portal. Agnes later married and lived on, but her story remains a persistent enigma. In the quiet English town of Hexham in 1957, a devastating tragedy struck the Pollock family. Their daughters, Joanna, 11, and Jacqueline, 6, were killed when a car struck them on their way to church. John and Florence Pollock were plunged into grief. John prayed for their return. A year later, Florence gave birth to twin girls, Jillian and Jennifer. From the beginning, familiar signs appeared. Jennifer bore a white line on her forehead, where Jacqueline had a scar and a matching birthmark on her hip. As they grew, the twins requested toys that had belonged to their deceased sisters, by name. When the toys were retrieved from storage, the twins divided them correctly without prompting. Their play turned eerie. They spoke of the accident in chilling detail. The blood's coming out of your eyes. That's where the car hit you. Passing cars sent them into hysteria. Back in Hexham, they identified their old school, the playground, landmarks, and people only Joanna and Jacqueline would have known. The case drew Dr. Ian Stevenson, who studied cases suggestive of reincarnation. He documented over 40 instances in which the twins' statements and behaviors corresponded to their late sisters. For John, prayers answered. For Florence, faith confirmed. For skeptics, suggestion and parental influence. As the twins aged, the memories faded. By 5, they led normal lives. The Pollock twins remain a cornerstone of the unexplained. Was it reincarnation, or a bleed-through from a parallel life? 2 souls given a second chance in a world they left too soon. New York City, 1950. The heart of Times Square, a symphony of cabs, bustling crowds, and the relentless pace of modern life. In the midst of chaos, a man appeared, distinctly out of place. He looked lost and bewildered. His attire, black frock coat, check trousers, a tall top hat, fashions a century out of step. Before anyone could make sense of it, tragedy struck. He stepped off the curb and was fatally hit by a taxi. At the morgue, the mystery deepened. In his pockets, a 5-cent beer token from an unknown saloon, about $70 in old banknotes, a business card, Rudolph Fentz, with a 5th Avenue address, and a letter postmarked June 1876. Nothing was from the 20th century. The address was now a business. No Rudolph Fentz in the phone book. No fingerprint match. A dead end. Captain Hubert Ream searched old records, finding a 1939 listing for Rudolph Fentz Jr. The widow said her husband's father, Rudolph Fentz Sr., disappeared in 1876, left for an evening walk, and never returned. The description matched perfectly: age, appearance, clothing. Had he leapt 74 years in an instant? The story likely began in the 1970s, debated as urban folklore, yet it persists, a vivid picture of a man lost in time, separated from his world by decades. Our final case is perhaps the most unsettling. It comes not from the distant past, but from our own modern, interconnected world. In 2008, Lorena Garcia Gordo posted a desperate plea online. She claimed she had woken to find herself in a world almost, but not exactly, her own, convinced she had slipped into a parallel universe. The day began like any other, her bed, her apartment, until small inconsistencies appeared. The bed sheets were different. She drove to work, 20 years in one role, but her office was no longer hers. A new department, a new director. The company directory listed her there as if it had always been so. Colleagues treated her as if nothing had changed. 2 decades of her history had been subtly rewritten. Panicked, she took the day off. At home, she searched for proof. Her long-term boyfriend, 4 months, no longer existed in her life. She had supposedly broken up and was seeing a man she barely knew. No emails, no photos, erased. Medical tests for amnesia and psychological disorders came back normal. A private investigator found no trace of the man at the address she remembered. Every avenue confirmed an altered reality. Her family remembered events differently. Even the news diverged. Politics, celebrity stories that had never happened here. It felt like subtle gaslighting by an entire universe. She was a stranger in her own life, surrounded by familiar faces who no longer shared her past. Her posts detail ongoing struggle, alienation, loneliness, like an immigrant from a world no one else could see. She hunted for glitches, hoping to return. This is not a legend. It's a living testimony, forcing us to confront a terrifying possibility, that our life could be altered overnight, leaving us the sole keeper of memories of a world that is no longer there. The man from Torred, the Green Children, the Pollock twins, Rudolph Fentz, and Lorena Garcia. 5 stories, separated by centuries and circumstances, yet all bound by a single, extraordinary thread, the appearance of a stranger who does not belong. These are not simply ghost stories. They are documented anomalies, cracks in the smooth facade of history and science. They present us with individuals whose very existence challenges our understanding of time, space, and reality itself. Are these tales mere coincidences, elaborate hoaxes, or the misinterpretations of bewildered minds? Perhaps. But to dismiss them is to ignore the persistent, nagging possibility that they represent something more. Glimpses of a larger cosmos, where timelines diverge and occasionally intersect, allowing travelers to step from their world into ours. Each story is a piece of a puzzle we may never complete. The truth remains hidden in the shadows between what is known and what is possible. These encounters leave us to wonder, how many other strangers have crossed the veil, their stories lost to time or disbelief? As we go about our lives, we are left with a profound question. Are we certain that the reality we inhabit is the only one? The next mysterious stranger could be waiting just around the corner.